You're a part of the resistance.
You are part of the Resistance. Welcome back to Star Wars News Net's The Resistance Broadcast. My name is John Hoey. Thank you to over 250 of you who have joined the Resistance on Twitter since our last episode. You're now part of the Resistance, and we are happy to have you with us. Tonight's going to be a fun one. We're going to talk about Rebels, including the return of a fan favorite Baney, who went by the nickname The Senate back in high school. Also, Rian Johnson dropping the mic over some Jedi lore, and we're going to have at it with another Star Wars war, where this week we will battle it out over the worst lightsaber duel ever. Oh yeah, and we're also going to announce the winner of our BottleneckGallery.com Rogue One limited edition art giveaway. Now, before we light the spark to that thing, let's say hi to my Resistance leaders, James Baney, Bill Sheehy, and Patric Covey. What's up, fellas?
Hey-o.
Doing good, man. Excited to be back.
Been experimenting with blue and green milk, and in a word, gross.
I will cross that off my bucket list.
Absolutely.
Is that food coloring?
No, it's. I actually milked a bantha and the sea manatee on Octo simultaneously. Don't do it.
The Thala siren.
It's gross.
I'm pretty sure it's non-pasteurized.
Very disconcerting. Don't do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it works for the Jedi Master, it doesn't work for us regular folk. Now, we got to hit up some poll results, guys, and it has a bit to do with our Star Wars war from last week. So we kind of debated how they should handle Leia in Episode 9, and we know Kathleen Kennedy said they won't be doing CGI, and that Carrie won't be in 9, sorta, right? But they will they still use a shot of her as a ghost? Will she be recast? Will her death be mentioned in the crawl? Will she be taken off to the books and the comics? And we asked, which do you guys like best? So 7% of you said that she should die in the books or comics. 12% said a recast with another actress. 17% said she should be a ghost at the end of the movie using some old footage or pre-shot footage from these two recent films. And the winning vote, whopping 64%, said her death should be mentioned in the opening crawl for Episode 9. What do you guys think? Were you guys expecting those results from the listeners?
It's just good to be right. I mean, it's one of my favorite things. So yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with what all the listeners came up with.
Well, actually, you're not right, because the question was, what should they do, not what will they do.
But they're all on my side on what they should do. So I'm taking that as a win.
I believe you said they should take her off to a Claudia Gray novel, Bill. But...
Okay. Different. We'll have a Star Wars war on that, but keep going.
Yeah, so 81% said death mentioned in crawl and a ghost at the end of the movie. And who said that?
Not John Hoey.
Well, anyway, the best comment went to Emily Van Natter at Emmy Van 99. I believe she's one of our previous giveaway winners, if I remember that correctly. She got 8 or 9 likes on this one. She said death mentioned in the crawl for sure, and Force Ghost at the end. Very good, Emily. She wrote
Who picked this best comment?
Hey, it's all about the likes, baby. It's all about the
likes, baby.
She wrote, in an ideal world, I would even have Rey mourning Leia, Ben doing the same in just a quick scene. So thank you for that, Emily, and way to go on having the most popular comment under the poll. We had over 1,300 votes on that one, so people really got into that. So hopefully you liked our Star Wars war, and it influenced you to vote in that poll. And as you know, filming is going to be coming in June or July, so the chatter on this is just going to get nuts, so we kind of wanted to get that out of the way before you guys hated us talking about it. Now, the giveaway, fellas. We had, how many people enter this thing?
Like 500? Something like that?
It was ridiculous. So, I know you're listening to this now. It is the BottleneckGallery.com Rogue One limited art. It's licensed by Lucasfilm. It was hand-numbered. They're unavailable anywhere else, and it was by Killian Eng. And, yeah, I think it was around 500 people. So, someone announced the winner. Let's just let him have it.
Pat, tell us, who is the winner of the Rogue One art piece?
Tell us!
And the winner of the Killian Eng limited edition hand-numbered Rogue One masterpiece, Doug Burger. Congratulations.
Whoa.
Sounds
That is
juicy.
Doug Burger at Dougie11Fresh on Twitter. Congratulations.
Wow.
You will be getting this piece of artwork
Go, Doug.
very soon. If you guys want to check out more from Bottleneck Gallery, you can head on over to their website. They got a lot of good stuff. They just put up some new sequel trilogy stuff today I think you guys are going to like.
That is unbelievable that he won
Don't
that.
buy it now so you can win it later.
That's right.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a math whiz, but like 1 out of 500 means you have like a 0.05 or 0.5% chance of winning that thing. So that's absolutely nuts. So congratulations, Doug.
So you're saying there's a chance.
So I'm saying there is a chance.
I just like Dougie11Fresh. Like,
Yeah.
Doug
makes
E.
me
Fresh,
feel like there's
baby.
10 other Dougie Freshes out there.
He's the 11th fresh one, though.
Yeah, the first 10 didn't make it, unfortunately. But we'll have future giveaways. But yeah, thanks again to Bottleneck. Those guys are awesome. They have a great relationship with us. So we will be in touch, Doug, and we'll message you, get your info, and get that out to you. So congrats again. To everybody who entered, again, thanks for joining us. Stay right where you are because we have plenty more coming. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, this is my opinion, the giveaway that we're going to have announced towards the end of February is going to knock your socks off. So stay with us right here.
Oh, baby.
But now it's time for the news, so let's send it over to James for Newsnet. What's up, James?
You may have seen the Legends book, The Jedi Path, in your local Barnes & Nobles before and thought, that's cute. Maybe flipped through it, thought, I'll buy this, and then turned it over, saw the price, and said, nope. But as it turned out, the book actually had some pretty cool stuff in it. Rian Johnson hopped on Twitter this week to post a series of interesting photos documenting where the idea of the force projection Luke came from. And guess what? There it is. In this book, black and white, under the section Advanced Force Techniques, Doppelganger. He followed it up with the popular gif of Homer Simpson disappearing into the bushes as if to say, now that things are getting a little bit awkward, I'm out. Bill, give me your opinion on this. Was this a fun way to kind of poke back at the Last Jedi haters? Or was this just a good way for Rian to say, hey, if anybody's interested, here was my inspiration?
I absolutely love this from Rian because for the past month or however long, month and a half since The Last Jedi came out, there have been a ton of people who have been hating on Luke's projection or anything different in The Last Jedi. And he really hasn't said anything. He said a couple of things, but this to me, it was slightly trollish, but in the best possible way because he didn't say anything. He used an emoji and then just used pictures and showed people that, hey, this isn't a new thing. This is something that they had thought of before in Legends, but like I love this move, and I think that everything that he says on Twitter just increases my love for him personally and what he's crafted in The Last Jedi.
Pat, are you feeling the same way? And did you ever read the Sith Code and the Jedi Path? Was that something you picked up?
No, actually, I didn't. I do have the Bounty Hunters one of that collection off of Amazon. But other than that, I can understand. A lot of people don't understand this, and this is something we constantly have to bring up. And that is that even if this stuff is Legends, Lucasfilm has made it very plain and clear that they are allowed to go back and cherry pick this stuff like Rian Johnson just did and bring it back into the new canon. If anything, a lot of these people who are hating on this are the same people who are demanding some of the Legend stuff come back anyways. So,
that's a great point.
That's a win-win in my book. And to see something like this come in, I'm actually pretty happy.
I'd really be interested to seeing what the sales were before and after he did this because, like, as soon as he showed that, like, I'm going to go pick that up.
John, do you think that was the thing to cherry pick?
I do. I don't know. I don't really get into Legends very much. I never got into it aside from the Shadows of the Empire game for N64, which I didn't get past the second level on. So I was stuck on Hoth for a long time there. So I don't know if I love this, but I don't mind that they borrow ideas from Legends, and I fully support what Luke did in this scene. So it worked for me. So it wasn't like was it from Legends? Let me find out if I like it or not. It was more of I liked how it worked. Oh, it happened to be from Legends? Cool. Because, like Pat was kind of saying, there are certain people, and they have every right to do so, as long as they are cool about it, who are loyal to the EU and felt like the space-time continuum changed too much from what they were used to when they thought Star Wars was done after 2005, who are saying we need more of this legend stuff, and there he goes and uses a big part of this force power, and they were still mad about it. So I don't know. I liked how he used it. I like how he's handling things. Props to him. I can't even imagine. I'd probably be off social media if I was Rian Johnson, but overall, I love the use of the power, whether it was Legends or not. It worked perfectly for me, and the more I see it, the more I understand why Luke did it. I love it more and more.
This is kind of an interesting comment because I think I'm with everybody that this was maybe just kind of a nice way of saying, like, look, guys, you know, you were you're doing different things in this movie, but this is coming from something that you already enjoyed. And we talked about that. But what's interesting to me is, like, when I think of what people are complaining about with the movie and what they didn't like about it, I don't hear very often that their complaint was that they didn't like how Luke was a force projector. Now, I have heard that they didn't like that he left the island, but I think generally, even the people who didn't like the movie were pretty like surprised by that. They're like, oh, that's cool, at least. I think the biggest complaint came from people not liking his character, his kind of depressing attitude towards certain things, James, and what he needs to be doing. So it makes me feel like Rian maybe wasn't specifically saying, look, people, this came from Legends. And because I feel like the response to that would be like, well, we don't hate that. That's fine. We were okay with the projection and him being able to do that ability. It's not like
he was responding to a tweet, though, right? I mean, that's kind
I don't think so. Was he?
I think so. I think somebody
he was. Yeah.
Somebody said something about how you could pull this out of thin air, and then he just like that. That's why I kind of consider it. And when I say troll, I mean that in the nicest way possible. Is in like.
Well, it was a mic drop. Yeah, it wasn't even a troll.
Okay. That's a better word for it. Yeah, exactly. So that's
how a lightsaber drop.
He did drop the lightsaber. Didn't break it in two. Just dropped it.
Okay, right. That does kind of change my opinion a little bit. Like, because I think that what he was doing then was he was addressing that, because like I didn't know that was a response to a tweet. Yeah. Because everywhere that I was seeing it was from the eyes past. You know what I mean? Like that was what I was reading, and then it just seemed to me like he just posted that on his own, like, hey, looky here, I've got something to show you. So yeah, I guess that is kind of just a subtle way to say, like, hey, if this is your opinion on it, if you're one of the people who thinks that, just remember, like, I got this from something that, you know, you guys already kind of appreciated. Right. So I would say mic drop, man. Yeah, I think you guys are dead on. And
lightsaber hilt drop.
Yep.
There it is.
He didn't throw it over his shoulder. He just dropped it.
Yeah. Well, Rian Johnson's awesome and we love him, but let's move on to the next story. You love it, and it's back for the last time.
Oh.
This week, we got the last Rebels trailer we will ever get as the fourth and final season is about to begin. I would tell you about all the stuff that we saw in this trailer, but there's like a 99% chance you've already seen it. Plus, we're going to be talking about all these details here in a second. So, John, I am going to send it to you first. As the least invested into the Rebels series here on this podcast, why did you hate the first half of this trailer?
Did I hate it? Remind me. I'm old.
I just have this feeling that you just did not like the first half. You're like, boring.
No, I'll admit, I like Rebels. I was never the biggest Rebels fan like you guys are. I can't wait for Kanan to die. All that kind of stuff. But
Bill, what are your opinions on the...
There were things that I did find interesting, though, like seeing the Convor. Is that teasing a return of Ahsoka? But again, like people have said, oh, Filoni said she's alive in a t-shirt, but then he also told us that Palpatine wasn't going to be in season 4, and that was a lie. So maybe this guy's just a big fat phony. Dave Filoni, the phony.
Okay.
Phony.
And then,
blasphemy.
And then, just leave us an iTunes rating. And then,
if this is your first time listening, we love Dave Filoni. don't turn this off right now.
Kanan cutting his hair, though, like that is from Japanese lore. I actually Googled this and looked it up. It says, if a samurai who was to abandon his societal role, either join the priesthood or choose life as a peasant, Such a man would cut off the top knot and undergo a dramatic decline in social status. So is this him saying goodbye to the Jedi way, or is this a symbolism of him that he's going to pass away? What's going on with that? And the Mortis thing, which I just rewatched, it's interesting to see what that's going to be all about. But what I have to talk about is my boy Palpatine. And not just Palpatine, Ian McDiarmid is back. And anytime you can get
Senate.
that guy back in the... he was called the Senate when he was a fullback in high school. And to this day, I mean, he's 75 years old. Anytime you can get a guy who's been in this franchise since 1983, you do it. He is the Emperor. He will always be the Emperor. As much as I love Sam Witwer, I'm really happy to see that McDiarmid is coming back in the form of Palpatine.
Patrick, you are a big Rebels fan. Are you? How are you feeling about this? Is this bittersweet? Are you excited to get into these episodes, or you just want them to keep going and keep going and keep going and never actually finish the series?
No, I mean, it's kind of bittersweet in one way, but at the same time, I understand that the canon can't fit this in anymore. This is something that absolutely needs to end. It makes sense with the storyline, as bittersweet as it is. And honestly, I would rather see another Lucasfilm animation property come about in the next couple of months or the next year or so. See what Dave Filoni or who else is going to take this moving forward. What are they going to bring to us? In terms of the trailer, I was kind of like meh on that first half, but I understand it actually led up to the second half about how this is Ezra's journey, this is where he's going, and this is where he's been. You could see that growth of where Ezra's been from when we first met him on Lothal, catching up with the Ghost Crew in the pilot episode, all the way up to where we are now, where he's learning his way. We don't know if he's conflicted or not anymore. The Mortis stuff was cool, like John was saying, but the thing that's really catching me the most is one of those final shots near the end where we see the projection of some sort of hooded figure. Myself and others have said it's probably still Palpatine in some way or another, but I've heard everything from theories on possibly Kenobi again with the holocron, because that's been a repeated theme in the show, to as something as big and as crazy as Darth Revan was another theory I heard floating out there.
Actually,
I think that's a little extreme.
It's one of the members of Organization 13.
Oh,
and this
thank
is a Kingdom Hearts crossover.
Oh, God. Please no.
Wait, hang on now.
No.
Real question. Have you guys found Rebels trailers being misleading like the Saga Films trailers?
No, actually not.
I feel like I think this is the first trailer that they haven't shown a lot, because I feel like a lot of the last couple of trailers, especially with season 3, the latter half or whatever, really spoiled Obi-Wan in the desert.
Right.
And I think in season 2 they even had one where it was Ahsoka and Darth Maul's going to be in it too. Or Ahsoka was already in it, but Darth Maul was
trying to get those viewers.
Yeah, exactly. And so I feel like I completely agree with Patrick, where the first half of the trailer, I was kind of like, well, this is just a really kind of look back at the series. But the new
memory lane.
Yeah, exactly. But the new stuff I really, really enjoyed. And they obviously did not go to the Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice trailer school, because they didn't. I don't think they showed anything. Which I want.
They didn't show Martha.
Yeah,
I know that.
They did not show Martha.
Martha.
But I really enjoyed it. But I'm glad that they didn't kind of blow their load, so to speak, on the entire thing.
It's actually really nice in a way, even though it was kind of like a meh sort of trailer. It kind of teased us a little bit, but that left it so that we're even more finally surprised for that finale.
Yeah.
And guys, we only really have
3 episodes.
5 episodes plus a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's gonna be over in 6 weeks or something like that.
Yeah, which is
insane.
3 weeks. Well, 6 weeks from now, yeah.
Insane.
See, I thought that was Palpatine. I didn't think that was any kind of thing where it was
I did,
because he even says Ezra Bridger. It's okay.
But no. The one that is the one that's standing a distance away from him, and it's like a hologram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk there. That's
no, but I'm saying then they show Palpatine. That's why I asked you if they're misleading, because the way they cut it, it seemed
the way they cut it, it's a little misleading. I think. I think you are absolutely on the money there. They're making you focus on Palpatine. Somebody brought this up that the shot of Palpatine where he's like using that, it almost looks like blue flames, goes back to something near the end of Clone Wars where him and Dooku were using the blue flames to get inside of Yoda's head. And that was another thing. Maybe he's using that to get into Ezra's head.
Yeah, it's an illusion or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, John, I was going to hop off of what you were saying, which was the whole, like, do we think the trailers for Rebels does the same thing as the movies? And I absolutely think they do, because in season 3, I really felt like there was a lot of things where I was like, okay, they showed us this and they had this sentence over top of it, which made me think that, you know, this thing was going to happen or this thing was going to happen. And when I watched this trailer, before you even said this, when I was watching the trailer, I was thinking, okay, that makes me think this, but they've done that in the past. There's like, I don't know, I can't think of anything off the top. There was like the, Ezra, and he's got glowing things in his eyes, and he's like, you know, it's how we choose to fight or something like that. And those two things were disconnected, like, completely. That was like the Kyber crystal erupting, and it didn't have anything to do with fighting or anything. And in this one too, he says some things like, I know what I have to do, you know, kind of a thing. And it's like, that makes it, I bet that's just a random line pulled from an episode.
Yeah. Trailer bait is what you're saying.
Yeah, I really think so. I will say, though, that if they're going to... I don't think this trailer was like, guys, we have like 20 clips and we need to fill a full like 3 minutes with this. So what are we going to do? Let's just use a bunch of old footage. I think this was the most appropriate time to do that. This is the last Rebels trailer you're ever going to get. Let's take them on the full journey. Let's make them feel like this is from beginning and now this is the end, and then we'll show them all the goodies from this. So I actually think that was pretty awesome. But my biggest, I mean, I love the Emperor, and I'm glad he's there. I kind of suspected he was going to be there. I still kind of suspect they're bringing Vader back as well. But my biggest thing is, what if we got an Ezra versus Vader fight? Like maybe like Vader versus the wolves. And Ezra all together.
I was thinking they were going to do something with Vader and Thrawn, but we can get into that later.
Yeah. But the biggest thing for me is the Mortis stuff, because I love the Mortis arc in the Clone Wars. It was like my biggest takeaway. It was the thing that I was like, dude, you haven't watched Clone Wars? You got to watch this stuff. And I would show people that, and I just got really hyped on what it meant and what it could mean and the bigger implications of everything that they lay out there. And it's so awesome. And that stuff, I think, is one of the biggest thing that people pull from the series. It's not just me, but like, could Snoke be like the brother, or, you know, and stuff like that. So I really think that people really dug that. And now to see it come back and connect with Kanan and Ahsoka, I'm just like,
do you think
so pumped? I don't even want to know if Ahsoka's alive or not. I just want to know how it's connected to Mortis. That's the biggest thing.
Let me ask you this, because you shot this down. We had a conversation in our chat. And I was like, do you think this is a way out for them not having to kill Kanan or Ezra, where they can go to Mortis and where time is different and it's detached from the galaxy in a sense? Is that an avenue they can approach? And you said, I don't know, it's kind of a fan theory thing. So what do you guys think about that in terms of the possible option there?
See, I don't think it's crazy, because like they wanted Anakin to be the new one, right? I mean, it's been a while since I saw that. But
Anakin was supposed to be the next father.
Yeah, exactly.
He was supposed to become a Force wielder.
So not only...
So can Kanan be the father?
He possibly... I mean, it may seem a little far-fetched, but at the same time, like, it would make sense that why maybe Kanan or Ezra or any other of or Ezra and the Jedi that are involved aren't there. I mean, because now they're and especially I think Filoni and the writing staff in general has been kind of aiming or gearing him towards a little bit more of like kind of the traditional like Japanese influences of the Force and the Jedi, and that finding that kind of balance. And I think Kanan and the Bendu helped him like find out that there was different paths to the Force. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility at all. In fact, I think it would make a little bit of sense.
Like they could make a series after Return of the Jedi, and Luke and them travel to Mortis, and there's Kanan and Ezra.
Why not?
Like, hey, we've been here for 40 years, and it's like, no, it's been 15 minutes.
And
What are you
then
talking about?
Pat, what do you think on this? Because I want to jump in on that, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
This is a really slippery slope because you're starting to now touch into the more top of the line Force stuff here that it's beyond what we're used to seeing with your general dark side, light side stuff. This is something above that. It's almost like up there with the Force Priestess stuff and Qui-Gon Jinn learning about the living Force and all of that. So
yeah, but this is the place to do it.
Yeah.
Clone Wars
Yeah.
has done that before. Animation has gone that route, and it was successful. So I don't think it's going to be like, how are fans going to react to this?
it's more or less like...
Do you think that they're going to do like a Kanan and Ahsoka become a brother and sister?
If Kanan's gonna be, like you guys suggested, like the father figure, since he's now more in the balance thanks to the Bendu, I would say he would be the father figure. Ahsoka, because she got life from the daughter, she would be the daughter side, and now that Ezra's starting to tap more into the dark side, I want to see how Ezra deals with the son, because the son is still technically alive at this point in the canon, as far as we know. So I think there might even be a confrontation as far as Ezra versus the son. And if that confrontation happens, the fans are not going to be ready for that. It's going to be mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So why I kind of shot down his thing is I really honestly don't think that they're going to make Kanan the father, because to me the father and the sister are gone. They are past. That's a story. Ezra's walking in, he's looking at the mural, and it's like 1,000 years ago. It wasn't 1,000 years ago, but my point is like, this is just a mural of something that happened in the past.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that those characters are going to show up, and I don't think they're going to have a big significant role. The thing is I think in the search for Ahsoka, or in the search for something else, he's going to stumble across this, and these things connect to Ahsoka specifically, because I think that when the sister passed, she gave her spirit to Ahsoka. So in that process, I think that owl might have been created in order to kind of be like a symbol of this other half of the sister. So now that Ahsoka either has passed or she will be passing soon or something, or she like Luke did, where he just kind of like moves, or Yoda like moves into the Force or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe Ahsoka is here to deliver a message and then say, that's the end of my story. She moves on, and that owl has now become the representation of the other half of the sister, if that makes sense. And now that Ahsoka is gone, that spirit can go back to the sister, and that's where the story connects in. I don't think you're going to see these characters. I just don't think that any of it really has anything to do with Kanan and his story. I don't think he's going to also be tied in. I don't think Ezra's also going to be tied into that. I think they're just going to be witness to that, and Kanan's story is going to be something different, separate. Maybe having something.
We're going to know in like 40
too,
days.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I know. So. But,
I actually want to make a
that's
correction.
My opinion on that.
I want to make a correction because I'm dumb here. I'm stupid. I'm sorry. The son was killed by the father. I totally forgot about that.
I wanted to say that, but
Thank
I was
you.
like, my thing. You said he's still alive, and I'm like,
no, he's not.
I really
God.
feel like all these characters passed, but I'm not going to correct him. Yeah.
And I started thinking about that because, as I recall, when the daughter died, the Force was out of balance, so the father did that so things could get back into the balance before he passed.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird because, in a weird sort of way, the Force is still out of balance. But I think that was more something that had to do with Anakin more than anything.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We got a couple weeks left to know. We're gonna know all the answers here soon.
Yep, and that's basically all the news this week, so I'm going to send it over to John to finish up all the little other things that happened this week. Take it away.
All right, let's take this thing into hyperspace and run through some quick news spots. So punch it, Chewie. In addition to crushing at the box office, The Last Jedi has been nominated for 4 Academy Awards, those being Original Score, which was John Williams' 51st nomination, which is insane. He's breaking his own records every year, it seems. Visual effects, sound editing, and sound mixing. In addition to this, the movie has earned nominations in all sorts of categories, with 9 different other award programs, adding to its impressive run and achievements. Reed Morano, the director of the acclaimed Hulu series Handmaid's Tale, revealed she met with Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy for over 2.5 hours recently. No details were revealed, but it led many, including us at Star Wars Newsnet, to speculate she could be in talks to work on some future Star Wars projects. I personally leaned on, for our article, to suggest it could be for the upcoming live-action TV series set to debut on the Disney streaming service in 2019, but we'll keep you posted as we find more out on that. Now, why weren't the Knights of Ren in The Last Jedi? Because you didn't deserve it, that's why, people. You did not deserve the Knights of Ren, that's why. No. You know why? Because Rian Johnson didn't have the room for them. The story itself was jam-packed in its current construct, and instead of making them be the wasted Praetorian Guards, which I always figured were made solely to sell action figures, he just didn't include them. Now, this does open up the door for them to come back in Episode 9, now that Kylo Ren is the Supreme Leader, and while some fans were upset we didn't get more light shed on them in The Last Jedi, it is possible that better than them being turned into tomato sauce and cast aside like the guards were, they come back in a bigger way. So don't rule it out yet. We may see them in J.J. Abrams' final chapter in the trilogy. Now, for the full articles on all of these stories and more, head to StarWarsNewsNet.com, the best Star Wars news and fan community in the galaxy, and that is your Scoundrels Rundown this week. But it is time for Star Wars Wars, so let's send it to Bill to introduce this week's topic.
I say we fight.
We've got a great one for you guys today. Tempers will flare, friendships will be tested. This is Star Wars Wars. Our war this week is, what is the worst lightsaber duel in Star Wars? John, let's go ahead and go around, and you start first. You tell me what you're picking, and then we'll go at it.
The worst lightsaber duel in the history of Star Wars is from Revenge of the Sith, and it's Anakin Skywalker versus Obi-Wan Kenobi. Period.
Gotcha. James Baney, what is the worst lightsaber duel?
The worst lightsaber duel in all of Star Wars history is Old Ben and Old Darth Vader, straight out of the old folks' home. Star Wars battling it out for like 3 seconds.
Your power's a week old, Matt.
Yeah.
Okay. Pat, what is your choice?
My choice comes, like John, from Revenge of the Sith, and my pick is Mason Crew versus Darth Sidious. I mean, this looks like it came out of a constipated AA meeting. It's atrocious. Even though spoiler alert, I love all lightsaber battles just because of the combat, but this one is at the bottom on my list.
I gotcha. Okay, and for me, I've chosen the entirety of the Count Dooku fight in Episode 2. So, here we go. Let's go, boys. Okay, so let me start off. So, the reason that the Dooku fight is the worst in the entirety of Star Wars is, A, whenever you want a Star Wars fight, you want it to mean something. You want there to be some type of stakes. Luke versus Vader, obviously very, very big confrontation in Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. Revenge of the Sith, you have Darth Vader versus Obi-Wan fighting through literal hell, and then you have Duel of Fates, which is for Naboo, and everything is happening around you. The Dooku fight has zero stakes. It is you walk in, you don't feel any kind of pressure. It's just like, in my opinion, it's a little bit more like
there are zero stakes. Like hands aren't important.
No, there's no. Okay,
Bill, you're looking at this. You're looking at this from a linear perspective.
No.
Anakin Skywalker lost the first time he lost a limb was in this fight.
But that's
the first time he became closer to not being human was in this fight.
That's
How
wrong.
Dare you?
That is wrong,
Dare you?
and that was
How
shoehorned in more than anything, because like
His arm getting cut off?
Yes, Anakin's own stupidity led to him getting his arm cut off. He obviously, when they walked in, Obi-Wan was like, "We're gonna think this through. We're gonna do it. We're not dealing with some run-of-the-mill stupid bounty hunter. You're dealing with Count Dooku, a trained former Jedi Master, and now a Sith Lord, and he just runs in like, I'm gonna take him now." Like,
Yeah, because
which is why that's
a huge
why it's
important moment.
no,
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Think about
zero.
Think about the wedding.
No.
The wedding at the end of the movie. They go to hold hands. What does she grab? A piece of metal. Why?
Because he's
starting to become Darth Vader.
because he's
And that was
an
the
idiot.
first moment it happened.
Because
That was
he
the
is an
first moment
idiot
it
at that.
happened.
No. If you look at that moment where his hand gets cut off,
His arm got cut off pretty
it's
much.
arm, hand.
No more elbow.
It
It's
doesn't
gone.
matter. It doesn't matter. There is no reason that his hand should have been cut off when you look at that moment, because he's literally just standing there while Dooku just slams down. He could have easily protected himself. It was used as a plot device to look, oh, this is how he lost his hand, and it's dumb.
For Bill's point, I will say what's always bugged me about this is Obi-Wan running in, and then he's like, "Hi, I'm Obi-Wan. Oh, I'm out of the fight." Like, it's just like the one of the most beloved.
No, well, you're forgetting Obi-Wan
characters
actually
in
had a
all
cool
of-
moment, and this is another reason why Bill's wrong.
No,
Obi-Wan, when he takes the Force lightning and he holds up his saber calmly like a Jedi should and just absorbs it, and he goes, "I don't think so." I've even heard Bill use this line before. I don't think so. I've seen you use this
that's
gif
the
before, I don't
most
think so.
common.
Okay.
that is one of the most common
is-
expressions in the world. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
That's like okay.
And then that scene with Dooku and Anakin when they slash the lights and all you see. Hold on, where they're face to face and all you see is the lights going past their face. That was one of the best
That's been
direction
done
moments Lucas had
before.
in the whole prequels. Okay, that was beautiful.
Here you go.
Beautiful.
You have little moments.
My last point.
You have
my last point. Hold on. My last point. My last point. Anakin, the first person ever in a Star Wars film to use 2 lightsabers was Anakin in that movie. Who did his apprentice wind up becoming? Ahsoka, who used 2 lightsabers. I wonder where she got that from. Another big moment that you probably
That's not a
overlooked,
big
Bill.
moment. I mean,
Huge moment.
it's not a huge moment.
It's called foreshadowing. The
Okay,
mentor to
if
the
we're going to
apprentice.
talk about huge moments, and you say the least favorite and the worst in the entire series is Revenge of the Sith,
yes,
that is a monumental moment. So
it should have been, and that's why it's the worst.
It is. It is truly.
You want to know why it's the worst?
Why is it? It's not the worst. I'll tell you why it's one of the. No, I'll tell you why it's one of the best. Because this. Okay, hold on. I need to go.
I mean, I have my points. You can collect yours if you like.
Okay, go ahead.
It should have been the best in terms of fighting and emotion, but it was neither, because it had like the whispers of knowing of how Darth Vader became Darth Vader. We heard about this from when we were kids, like something about a volcano and how would he get. This was ingrained in our brains that this was going to be the fight of all fights in Star Wars, and it was utter garbage.
What do you define as garbage?
First of all, the dialogue was dreadful. They even had to do reshoots and put fake beard back on Obi-Wan Kenobi to add dialogue into it, which you can tell clearly in some of the shots which ones were reshot or not. The whole "you underestimate my power" is the worst delivered line in the history of the
I gotta go
saga.
against you on this. I gotta go against you.
Go ahead, Pat.
Absolutely
What?
not.
Because I'm not even halfway there.
The whole importance of that scene was to show that these are 2 brothers who are finally pitting themselves against each other for the first time.
Calling
and
Captain
the moment
Obvious, Captain Obvious to the elevator, please.
Okay.
the moment where they push the Force against each other, you see so much pain, so much
so
pushing, so
cheesy.
powerful.
It's so cheesy.
You see the sweat
definitely
pouring down their
don't. You're
face,
you're gonna
you
say
see
cheese.
raw emotion.
It was
You see
2 guys,
raw
like,
emotion.
they were standing in a mirror holding their hands together. That was one of the dumbest parts of that whole fight.
No,
that's not raw
how?
emotion.
That
That was
is-
right after
how
the
is that not-
twirling, synchronized twirling lightsaber thing, like they were cheerleaders in a baton tournament. It failed on so many levels.
It
and
did
when
not.
we first, yes, because when we first saw it, we thought it was great. Why? Because John Williams' music was awesome, right? It was a spectacle. But when you break it down by the parts, it was absolutely horrible. It was overrated. It should have left us sobbing. But when you look back on that fight is never in your top 3 list, and it should be number 1.
see-
it didn't deliver the way it should have, and that's why it's the worst fight.
see,
because it
but
didn't
that's
live up
where
to what
you're
it should
wrong.
have.
It did not
That's
look
where you're
highly
wrong.
choreographed, which is something we had never also seen in Star Wars. It was very
didn't?
raw. It was very
Oh my
much
God.
individually
I could
pushed.
disagree with that more. That was the most choreographed fight I've ever seen in
No,
Star
the
Wars.
fight between Obi-Wan and Darth Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn in Episode 1 was the most choreographed fight in Star Wars.
Yeah.
So to say that that's the most choreographed is stupid and moot.
It's not, because look at that gif of them twirling them back and forth in front of each other. It's so ridiculously
Oh wow!
choreographed.
One moment in the whole fight. Wow.
I definitely think that all the fights in the prequels were a little bit choreographed.
To some
I mean,
extent.
I think that's why everybody likes it. Or when you talk about the prequels, the 2 moments that people talk about the most, in my opinion, when they're talking about the good stuff, they're talking about Duel of the Fates or they're talking about Revenge of the Sith.
Because people don't talk as much and the dialogue was shit in those
Well,
movies.
listen, getting back to dialogue, let's go back to one of the... If it weren't for Christopher Lee and his years and years of acting, if anyone else said this line, I'm going to read this line. It is obvious that this contest cannot be decided by our knowledge of the Force, but by our skills with a lightsaber. That is so heavy-handed, so like, okay, me and Yoda, we're going to fight it with a lightsaber now. George Lucas could not come up with a better line than some. It doesn't make any sense to me. And
he came up with the line. What do you mean?
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say is it was heavy-handed, and it makes it's hitting you over the head with.
What would you rather have him said?
Just pull out the lightsaber. You don't need to say anything. You don't
Bill
need
the writer.
You don't need to
Bill
say
the writer.
anything.
Here we go.
You don't need, like, in that moment, I don't think you need to say anything. Like when in The Force Awakens, when Kylo and Rey are going at it, when she grabs the lightsaber, does Kylo Ren say anything? It's obvious that this is going into a lightsaber contest. Just turn on the damn lightsaber. You don't need to say anything.
What about when Palpatine goes to Luke? You want this, don't you? And he's talking about the lightsaber, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a different thing. It's not...
You guys are so funny because you're all arguing over these like relative things like I felt emotion and the person's like I didn't feel emotion, and this is ultimately like why I'm going to win this, because my argument for why that fight in A New Hope is the worst is just because the implications that it means over the long term, over the course of the future of all Star Wars movies. It's not a mistake that the filmmakers ever made, because at the time it was great. It was awesome and it had all these emotional things to it. And my thing is the reason it's the worst is because every other fight after that is better. So when it comes down to, whether it be Dooku or it's like Yoda versus Palpatine or a choreographed Darth Maul versus whatever, I understand the implications of those are a little weird because like, well, why are they fighting like that? But here's the thing is like, when you get to that fight in A New Hope, it doesn't make any sense. Like,
why not?
How?
Why are they being so simple? Why are they
Because
just kind
they're
of like,
old.
They're aged.
But they're
And
not,
even-
because Vader 20 minutes ago was annihilating people.
But was he
My thing is,
running
like-
and was he using the Force to like go faster or anything? No, he was old. I mean that's kind of in Rogue One. He wasn't doing anything that he.
But
could,
they should.
that
He was
but
slow and methodical.
Yeah,
As their
exactly.
bodies get but as their bodies get weaker, they should rely more on the Force. But at this point in their careers, Darth Vader being as evil as he is, he should be like full on dark side and be able to tap into that stuff way more. And the same for Obi-Wan. Years and years and years of being a Jedi and being able to like flip and do all kinds of crazy stuff. And then now he's done nothing but like meditate on the Force. They shouldn't be just standing there like testing each other to see who's gonna swing or go for their feet. Like they should be doing something bigger. And I get
there's
it.
emotion
They didn't
in
know
that. This
that
is
back then.
Okay, we didn't know this at the time, but or when it first came out. But this is a master and apprentice. These are two brothers who loved each other. And it's a big moment. So I think for that fact alone,
I think the reason why they didn't fight
it's
so
a
much
big
is because they
moment, but
realized
it
how
doesn't
stupid they looked the
ultimately
first
pay
time they
off.
fought. Which is helps my point a little more.
how?
That the one in Revenge
How
of the
does that
Sith was so
help?
bad, they didn't want to do any
That doesn't
choreographed
help
fighting
at all.
anymore. So they just said, let's hit our sticks together this time. So I think that's probably why they did that. So I kind of see your point there, James, but it does help mine a little bit.
The whole thing about this whole section of A New Hope is they're there to confront each other. This is supposed to be not necessarily a full-on saber fight, as more of it is as a battle of the wits to
You're right,
try to
Pat,
get in the
you're
other
right.
person's head. This is
Look at it like somebody who is coming into the series who have never seen the movies, like, which is difficult to find, but come in, watch somebody who watches Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, and then maybe even include like all the stuff in Clone Wars and like all these other things that happen, and then get to that fight and see how they feel about
James,
that
why
fight.
do you think
then
it'd be
they
like,
know
what
the
was the
history
best-
behind
Let
it.
me ask you guys this
They know
question.
the
Why do you
history
guys
behind
think-
it.
Why do you guys think they fought? Why do you think Obi-Wan sought him out? What do you think his purpose was?
Was to draw him out so that he could distract from
Exactly.
from in the Death Star for Luke.
You're absolutely right, Bill. So there's way more purpose to this than just two old men clacking sticks together, James.
Exactly.
You're looking at it a little too simply, I think.
It's just like
A
how it
little
happened
too
in Last
simply.
Jedi.
You guys are saying, like, what's the purpose? Like, there's all this built-up tension and stuff. I'm honestly looking at it like as if I went to, like, a basketball game and I was like, all right, man, I want to see a sick basketball game. And the basketball players are like, we've been rivals for 100 years.
I loved your
Our
description
teams
of
will
sports.
always
This
be
is
rivals.
really fun for me.
and then all of a sudden they're gonna do it. They're gonna do the game that's gonna be the end all
do the
be all
game.
game.
Do the
And they're
game.
just like, they're barely like tossing the ball back and forth. Like they're not doing anything.
All right, but
it's
And
all
then
about fundamentals,
ultimately,
James.
What it comes
Fundamentals.
down to is one person on the other court throws one ball like way into the air and it goes in the hoop and it's like game.
Yeah, but
3-0.
the problem with-
that's
I think
it.
the- I think the biggest problem-
That's the big climax to this story
All
that
right,
you guys
James,
have been
I see your
waiting
point.
on.
Okay, the
But the
climax
biggest
of A New
problem with
Hope
yours-
is the climax of A New Hope isn't the Vader Obi-Wan fight though.
No, to the climax of the story of Anakin and Vader
Right.
as apprentice
The
and all
problem
this
is
other
this
stuff.
is the first lightsaber duel we ever saw, right?
Yes.
Like in terms of chronological with the movies.
Yeah,
So
and I'm saying
things
that-
are going to
that makes
progress.
sense in that-
things are
that
going
respect.
to right. Things are going to progress. But are you going to go back and say because they had old recording techniques and not the best drumming patterns that the Beatles were the worst band ever? No, you're going to give praise to the original, right? So that's what
Well-
that's how you have to look at that lightsaber duel.
You don't know who you're talking to because I'm someone that says people should not listen to the Beatles for those reasons. So
Yeah, that's why I'm
Okay.
bringing up that point because I think most people would disagree with that.
You're telling
Okay,
me
but-
you would take Paul McCartney now versus Paul McCartney back then?
I know that's crazy
I-
talk, dude.
Everybody loves
Like,
a little
first and
dance
foremost,
around tonight.
Like Anakin versus Obi-Wan
I
in
don't
Revenge
listen
of the
to Paul
Sith
McCartney,
is
so-
like Skrillex, like a techno song that you hate in the club, and the one that
Yeah.
you are talking about is like a classic Beatles song. So
We're
mine
not
is
here
definitely
to talk
worse
about
than yours.
music. I will debate that stuff all day long. But here's the thing: is that I even have kind of a bigger thing. The more and more
what she
that
said.
the progression of the lightsaber fights continues, is that all of these fights are great in comparison to the original fight.
No.
I'm literally,
Because-
I'm literally laughing because I'm thinking
And-
about Anakin and Obi-Wan floating on those little robots over lava, saying, "The Jedi are evil. Well, then you're lost. Resume fight." Blah. It is so ridiculous,
Dude, he's
Oh
in
my
a.
God.
I'm saying, look at we'll have the best lightsaber fight sometime down the line.
Yeah.
but for a little bit of inside baseball, that's where we started. We were gonna say what's the worst and best, and then we just decided to kind of leave it at one thing because this would be a very long Star
It would
Wars
have been
war.
two,
And-
Yeah.
But
cross.
But
and, yeah.
before
thing
we
is
move on,
that-
can I make one more point? Just one. Okay. Anyway,
Can you make a point?
I can't. I've made several points of all the things that this battle did wrong. The worst of the worst. And I didn't mind him in Revenge of the Sith because it wasn't as ridiculous. But screaming Yoda against Count Dooku is one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen in Star Wars ever. It's when we first.
Is it worse than you underestimate my power?
Yes, it's absolutely
No, it
worse than
isn't.
you
Not
underestimate
even
my.
close.
Ah! And then he just jumps on everything.
I thought that was like the best part of that scene.
No. What? What?
I liked it too,
grunts, his,
yeah.
like,
No,
his little
absolutely
Yoda
not.
grunts like
Bill, you're telling me you wouldn't have some sort of war cry if you charged your enemy?
No, okay, it's one thing to have a war cry. It's one thing to have something that sounds like you're about to take a big ass poop. So
What did 8-year-old Bill Sheehy do when he saw Yoda unleash a lightsaber? I bet you jumped out of your seat and your popcorn went everywhere.
well, but then I became
and
an adult.
he follows that up by running straight at Dooku and doing like all these crazy flips
Crazy,
and stuff.
yeah.
Stupid though.
Yeah, that was really cool. I think like even
You are-
if you were
you are full
like
of
later kind of skeptical about like, well, wait, hold on, you're
Right.
telling me this is the same Yoda that blah blah blah.
Right.
The thing is that like you still were like, what?
Right.
The first time you saw it, you know what I mean? And I'm coming in as if a new fan of Star Wars saw that Luke Skywalker, or I'm sorry, not Luke
you're
Skywalker, the Vader Ben thing, they'd be like, what in the wrong
No, they would
way?
think those
They'd
are
be
two
like,
old
what
men
is
fighting. They're
this?
not gonna. No.
They would say that was like a classic, a
not a
classic,
good
a classic
argument.
old
Isn't-
play
how is
movie
it not an
fight.
argument?
But they're They're Jedi and Sith masters.
So what?
But they're old.
They're old.
Is there
yeah.
did any lightsaber not live up to the hype the way the one at the end of Revenge of the Sith did? The answer is no.
I think episode 2.
There was no hype. What was the hype for that
There
fight?
you go. There was no hype. There was no stakes.
Exactly.
There was no
So
spectacle.
you're proving
Anakin
my
is stupid.
point.
Cool moments, but they lasted 2 seconds. Those are points.
Yeah, I disagree, though, because I think there was hype. I think we knew from the trailers that Yoda was going to ignite this lightsaber and we were going to get to see him fight, and there was hype.
What's the
and
most
I
And
think
the fact that it was
lightsaber
so
fight
disappointing I think it's a little bit out of character for Yoda to do all that kind of stuff, just because we see him in Empire Strikes Back, and it's
If you're not with me, then you're my
okay.
enemy.
Stop. It is obvious that this
Speaking-
contest cannot be
Let her
decided.
go, Anakin.
Let her go.
Speaking about
so fun.
letting things
Your
go.
new empire.
Speaking about your new empire, let's get to my worst of Star Wars moment.
Yeah, we
Mace,
haven't even talked about it.
Mace and
Which one did you pick
crew
again?
versus
Oh, Mace Windu,
Palpatine. There are so many reasons why I hate this fight. Number one reason, if you see the Clone Wars, this fight diminishes Kit Fisto to a pulp. I hate it. They show how great a Jedi Master he is in this TV show, and they turn around and slap it in the face with this fight.
I don't
He's
think
dead.
it doesn't diminish it. It shows how powerful Palpatine was.
No,
He
I'm
lasted
gonna throw
10
this out there, too.
seconds.
Pat, this is for your point. I absolutely agree with you, because when he died originally, that character didn't mean anything. He was just
Exactly.
like fodder. But then later they filled in his story and they filled in all these extra things which were cool and they worked. But then that doesn't line up with that fight, because then you go back and you watch that fight and you're like, oh, well, that wasn't really as cool as I thought it was. You know what I mean?
I think face
Like-
value, Pat might be right that the fight itself is really stupid. Like
It is.
If you're just talking
Here-
about the fight itself with like CGI Palpatine's face and like how he's stabbing and
Yeah.
swinging and his mouth is opening, it is so stupid. But
So-
the purpose of that fight is to bait Anakin to go there.
The
it has an overlaying
repercussions
purpose.
of that
Yeah, but the fight
changed
itself
the
is what
entire.
Pat is
The
arguing that it's
repercussions of that
However,
fight
the
changed the
purpose
entire
of
history of the
fight-
galaxy.
The fight itself
However,
is I think the main point. Like, and that's I agree with what Pat's saying. It ruins the character because of later stuff they added in the
But
canon.
no one really
right?
cares about
And
that character. Can we be honest, guys? Come on.
I
Not-
do.
that's
I
not
mean-
true. I don't think that's
Out
true.
of all these people fighting in lightsaber duels, we're gonna focus on that guy as to why that's the worst lightsaber duel.
Yeah,
ever.
why not?
That's where we're
and
at.
I also don't like about this
No,
fight.
I mean, I think it's one of the only fights where like
none
somebody
of you
comes
believe
up
that.
and goes, "Oh, you're dead. Oh, you're dead," and then toop. Oh, you're dead. So
It's
he
like a
kills
LARP.
like
It's
three
like a LARP.
people
Lay on
in
the
like
ground. You're dead.
10
Look it up.
seconds.
Yeah,
It's really quick. It's really crazy. You see Palpatine, of course, flipping around like Yoda. Both characters look like they are so constipated every time they clash lightsabers. It's
Pat, you have
embarrassing.
constipation on the mind,
Everybody's
man.
constipated today. I mean,
You get Palpatine
Yeah,
going.
even the soda people at the triple AA meeting.
Oh, I hate the Palpatine dialogue in this scene.
Why?
And then when Anakin shows up, it's like an episode of Let's Make a Deal. It's like curtain number 1 or curtain number 2. You decide. And
I have
the one
found
guy
you,
on our
Anakin.
podcast,
I have found
the one
you.
guy
Okay.
on our podcast who subscribes to prequel memes. He
don't
hates
think
the
so.
"I am the Senate" line.
because prequel memes is at least funny.
Yeah, I'm not a big I Am the Senate fan either, but I do like when he says, "Are you threatening me, Master Jedi?" I do like that.
Yeah. You see, look there.
Yeah,
there's.
it's a good line. That I will say
It's a
is
good
one of the
line. It's a
redeeming
good-
Have you,
factors.
have you guys ever watched like a UFC fight or a boxing match where you're like, "Oh, we're getting this pay-per-view. We're gonna go over our friend's house," and then it's like over in 10 seconds. You're like, "That was a
Yeah.
freaking letdown."
Yeah.
That is Anakin versus Obi-Wan in Revenge.
That
of the
is
Sith.
not a letdown. That didn't.
was not over in 10
That was
seconds.
like a 20-minute
That was a bad analogy.
That was a
like,
long fight, John.
Yeah, that's a really long
I'm not
fight.
talking
you're
about the
gonna
length
say
of the
that-
fight. I'm talking about how much it disappointed you, Pat.
No, it did.
But that's a bad analogy. If you're gonna say that,
Yeah.
you should say that about like the Obi-Wan Darth Maul and Rebels or something. you
Yeah.
know?
I'm not talking
Like,
about
That
the
was a
actual
UFC
time length.
fight.
I'm talking
'Cause
about
at-
how much it disappointed
At
you.
the end of the
No, I
day,
understand,
somebody
but I'm
still
saying
got
come up
hit.
with a different analogy if that's the case. But the reason I think Pat would win is that first like 3 Jedi that die in that fight, that's definitely the worst battle. Like if
all
Mace
3 were
wouldn't have been
disbanded
there,
in Clone Wars. All
if
3
Mace
of them
wouldn't have been there and it was just like
my
him
God. I
killing
knew this was
3
gonna
people, I'd have been like, that sucked.
What?
But
Are
the
we really
reason I
talking
think
about this from this linear of a perspective where it's just laser sword versus laser sword technique? No, we're talking about the whole involvement of what the purpose of these fights are too, right? The overlaying effects of these things?
Yeah,
Not
the
just
thing,
like-
then
the thing about this fight is in Clone Wars, all that stuff takes place before Episode 3. So leading into that fight, it irks me to such a level. I can understand if
To me,
Palpatine is
I've
Palpatine
always,
is so much
I've always
stronger.
taken it as this Palpatine was so powerful that he took out 3 Jedi Masters in a minute or however long it took, which I think
the one thing
it
from
doesn't
Clone
necessarily
Wars-
diminish him. I think that it strengthens Palpatine in my eyes. And if we're going to talk about big moments, John, one of the biggest moments in Star Wars history is Anakin Skywalker becoming Darth Vader, and this is the battle on Mustafar
Right.
is the one where
That's the biggest moment.
Which happened
The
after
battle-
that fight.
the battle on Mustafar
What are you talking
led
about?
to the
That
creation of
fight
Darth
was
Vader, which is a
making him.
humongous
Fight,
moment
John,
in the
the
canon of
implications
Star
were
Wars.
all
One at a time. Jeez, if you're going to attack me, do it one at a time.
Well, my point.
All right,
Go ahead.
I'm attacking first. Then, if you're gonna say that the implications are what's important and not the actual fight, then you can't
Yes.
argue over the dialogue or how they're like swinging the lightsabers in front of each other.
Horrible.
You have to recognize that even though the prequels maybe weren't as good as you would want them to be, the implications of that fight was what made that fight so good.
The
It's
fight
fact
was
that we
horrible, though.
finally
That's the
got to
problem.
It was not
see-
horrible.
No, but you're saying it's horrible from the way they're
No,
swinging.
I'm
the
saying it
lasers and
horrible
the
from
dialogue.
every aspect except John
No.
Williams' music.
No, well, then they're
Swinging from a vine and clashing lightsabers is so ridiculous. I
Vines
can't
on
even comprehend.
Mustafar? What are you saying?
When they were swinging
No,
at
it was
each
like
other,
cables.
or what-
It wasn't
yeah.
a vine, but he's saying it was.
it was a
the
metaphoric
cables.
vine. Yeah.
It looked like George
But
of the
yeah.
Jungle is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah,
oh,
he
I'm
might
gonna
as well have
swing and
been-
you swing, and we'll hit our lightsabers and make a cool soundy sound.
that.
That's Star Wars.
Oh,
You
Yeah.
sound like every
No,
prequel hater I've
Star-
ever heard.
I'm not a prequel
Look,
hater.
if you guys,
but
if
I'm
you
gonna
guys
call it
wanted
out
these
when there's
fights
problems.
to be
I'm not gonna
better,
like everything.
if you guys wanted the fights to be better, like that Anakin and Obi-Wan showdown on Mustafar, then they should have just stood there and kind of just like waved their lightsabers around and maybe hit them like 4 times.
Wait, where's James going with this? Wait.
Oh,
Right.
I think I know. I think everyone knows where I'm going with this. I think that if you want Count Dooku and Yoda to have a memorable and important, really visually awesome and metaphorically perfect fight, you just need to have them
Metaphorically
stand
perfect
there.
fight? Are you
Yeah,
kidding me? Are
I
you
don't know what
kidding me?
No, I'm saying they just need to stand there and kind of just talk to each other back and forth and kind of just wave their lightsabers around and then maybe every once in a while kind of test the water a little bit.
But the relationship between
zap,
Count
you know what
Dooku
I mean?
and Yoda is very different than the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, and so is their fight.
Because it. Anyway,
I feel like this is probably pretty wrapped.
Yeah.
I don't think any of us are going to change our opinions, but we've made our opinions clear. I was even going to
Everyone should
throw
get to
out...
have a little closing argument without an interruption, though. I mean,
I agree. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, there you go. This will be mine then.
So
Then
I'll
my
go
closing
Go
argument
ahead, James.
is that I think people generally gravitate towards the live action fights, but I think that's what kind of makes the animation thing so, I don't want to say out of place, but the fights in animation, whether it be Rebels or Clone Wars, are so much better choreographed and the way they're moving around that those fights, they don't feel like they're taking dance lessons. They actually feel like this is a really cool force-powered superhumans fighting back and forth. And it honestly, when we were thinking about doing our best of, I can't think of any live action that was better than some of the ones that I were thinking about from Clone Wars and from Rebels. Like, I almost
When are you
want
going
to
to talk
say
about
that
how yours is the worst, James?
Yeah. That's a good point.
What I was going to say was that I honestly think that when it comes down to the actual interesting fight itself, that almost all of animated fights are better than all of the live action fights. And that's why I almost argued that all fights in the live action movies are the worst fights of Star Wars.
Wow.
But if you want to cut off animation from this and just look at the live action fights on their own, you got to look at the one that's the least interesting. And at this point in our timeline of canon and how much we have now, it's probably the one that is just the most to be desired as far as like a big confrontation and two people just kind of staring each other down and barely even actually having a lightsaber fight. But go on. I lose. That's fine. Whatever. I don't care.
All right, Pat, give your... are you done? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Wrap
Pat,
it up.
go ahead and give your closing thoughts.
Well, I gotta reiterate what James was saying there. The animation stuff is phenomenal. I feel like it's on such a high pedestal above the live action stuff that even when I went back and reviewed before this Star Wars war, I was looking at them like, damn, there's not even been one bad fight in the animation category. Literally 0 bad fights. It's phenomenal what Dave Filoni and crew have done over there. But to get down
Michael
to the...
Scott, thank you.
Yes, to get down to the nitty gritty though, and you look at the live actions, you go, well, what's really the worst? Because, I mean, there are demeaning qualities to technically every live action fight in Star Wars. There's little things that all of us at some point are going to say, even though that might be a great fight and what happens in the broader world might be good, there's like those little things that nag at us about every single fight. But the one that just nagged me the most is this drama constipated crap of Episode 3. I like that Anakin has to make that choice, but I'm sorry, it feels too much like a game show, and it's like curtain number 1 or curtain number 2, you decide, Anakin, and he picked curtain number 2 and chopped curtain 1's arm off.
John, closing thoughts.
Yeah, my point is, and I knew this was a tough choice because people love this fight who like to look at things from a narrow point of view, but the Anakin versus Obi-Wan fight in Revenge of the
my friend.
Sith.
Positivity.
Do I get my closing thoughts? Thank you. Anakin versus Obi-Wan should have been the best fight in terms of fighting and emotion, and for me, it was neither. It was cheesy dialogue. The fighting was way over choreographed. Again, highlighted by them twirling the lightsabers while they're face to face and then pointing their hands at each other using the Force. I don't think I've ever seen anything cheesier. Then later on in that fight, when Anakin said, "You underestimate my power," which is the worst line delivered in the history of Star Wars. So again, this was the most hyped fight in the history of the saga, and it disappoints. And we should have been left sobbing and in awe of how great it was, but really it was a Michael Bay action scene at best with great John Williams music. That's why, because it's such a huge disappointment, the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan is the worst lightsaber fight in Star Wars history.
And
You were
finally,
my brother, Hoey. I loved you.
And finally, with the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight, there were stakes in Revenge of the Sith. With the Obi-Wan and Anakin fight in A New Hope, there were stakes. In the Mace Windu versus Emperor fight, there were stakes. The fate of the galaxy was in the balance for... and the fate of Darth Vader was in the balance of both of Mace and the Emperors. And the fate of Luke was at stake in A New Hope. I'm sorry. The Dooku fight, there were no stakes. In Duel of the Fates or Revenge of the Sith, there was you have some type of spectacle. They're fun to watch. They're beautiful to look at. No spectacle. Anakin is an idiot in it. There were a couple of cool moments, and like you guys said, the double lightsaber thing is cool, but then it immediately, within 2 seconds, the lightsaber gets cut in half. Screaming Yoda is stupid. It became a Force pissing match that I didn't really want to see. And then, to end it all, it is obvious this contest cannot be decided by our knowledge of the Force, but with our skills with a lightsaber. This fight is the worst fight in all of Star Wars, and I think I won. Anyway, guys, let us know what you thought about it. Let us know who won. I think that's all we've got. So, Patrick, it's up to you, buddy.
Thanks, Bill. Now we're going to move on to Tweeting with the Resistance. That's where we ask you all out in the Twitterverse what you guys have for questions, and we answer them. So first this week we have Andrew Espinal at I Drew on You, and he asked, how should Lucasfilm handle Boba Fett? Will they go with him escaping the Sarlacc pit as canon, or only focus on him earlier on? Also, will we ever get that 6 Star Wars 1313 game? John, what are your thoughts on this?
I think there's going to be a lot going on with Boba Fett that we're going to find out about after the Solo movie comes out. And I think we're going to see a solid amount of the Fett in Solo, probably in a way we haven't seen him before. Maybe not even so much a antagonist to Han, because the dispute isn't there. Why would he be as angry with him? But I think once that movie comes out, and then we start seeing maybe some new animation shows come out, I think he is going to survive the Sarlacc pit, because why wouldn't you? Like, why would you just say, oh yeah, Boba Fett's dead, we have a 35-year time gap where we can use this guy, we're just going to kill him off? That doesn't make sense to me. So I think we will see him back in an animated series. I don't think we're going to get some kind of Boba Fett movie. I don't think that's where they want to go. That game, I read up on this, that Kathleen Kennedy loved what was in the game. She really lauded what she saw from it, but they axed it pretty early, and I think maybe it's one of those things where they want to do it right and reintroduce it at a time where Boba Fett makes the most sense, which to me, like I said, is like post-Solo, a Star Wars story, where things that remind you of Boba Fett come to surface. Mm-hmm. So, long story short, how should they handle Boba Fett? He's not dead. He will come back after the Sarlacc pit, probably in some kind of animated series, I'm guessing, after Return of the Jedi, and I think that game will surface in one way or another down the line, because I really do think they really believed in what it was. It just wasn't the right time and the right venue for it. Oh, and Andrew, thanks for the question. I promised I would get it in this episode because you hit us up on iTunes with a 5-star review. So thank you for the question, but most importantly, thank you for the review, because those things, they take 20 seconds and they really help out the podcast.
Such a big deal.
And don't forget, they actually teased the possibility of the Mandalorian armor surviving in Aftermath.
Aftermath, yeah, they did.
Yeah. And then I think that Star Wars 13 situation is a little weird, because they were trying to push the game at that time where EA was starting to axe a lot of projects in studios, so this could have been more of an EA end instead of Disney. It was
part of, they canceled a lot of LucasArts stuff.
Yeah, so
in 2013, and this just fell right into that wave.
It's a shame, because it was a beautiful preview.
Yeah.
All right, our next question comes from Adam Odell on Twitter at eodel. And he asked, does the new Thrawn Alliances book make it almost certain that Thrawn is going to survive Rebels? If he dies, when could that book take place in the timeline where he is a Grand Admiral teaming up with Vader? Thrawn seemed to take us up to the point where he appears on Rebels. Bill, what's your take on this?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but there is a time gap between seasons 3 and 4, right?
I believe so, yes.
So I think that it's certainly a possibility that this may hint that he survives after Rebels, but I think more than likely it's going to take place in between that gap between seasons 3 and 4 of Rebels, because I don't think that they would announce that novel if they wanted to give away that he's going to survive past season 4. So I think that, for me at least, I don't know what everybody else feels, that it's probably most likely going to take him between that place in between that gap between season 3 and 4.
I'm going to throw it out there too, not to answer the question, but we already got confirmation from Dave Filoni that Thrawn does survive past Rebels.
Confirmation.
That's one.
We said
he said that the voice actor's character outlives another character in the show. So that to me means that Thrawn
he outlives Kanan.
Lives past Galen Erso. No, he outlived Galen.
Oh, that's right.
Erso.
You're right. Galen.
Yeah, right. I believe this until the Palpatine stuff just happened. Yeah, because it is Dave Filoni.
So, we'll see.
Right.
I'm gonna stick.
Yeah, if you want to take that,
I'm gonna stick with him between seasons 3 and 4, though.
And it makes the most sense, because I started thinking about it in my head, and I'm like, well, if him and Vader are gonna team up, it's gonna have to be before the season 4 finale at some point. You'd think, right? So, especially if Vader comes back at the end of this thing, they never teased him in that trailer. So, I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Just don't water down my Vader.
We shall see. Our next question comes from Sean Santarude on Twitter at RudeCold, and he asked, is there a Legends storyline you would like to see as canon in either film, comic, or book format? James, what's your take on this?
So when this question first came up, it was like not directed at me because I've never been a Legends person, but I wanted to answer this one specifically because for me, I think there's something that's really interesting from the Legends that I don't know if they're going to make it canon or not. And when I think of Legends, like having not really partaked in it, I think of the parcheesied in it. I have these standout people and standout things that to me are things that the fans would really want brought back in, whether it falls exactly on how, that it happened in Legends or not. So you have characters like Darth Bane. It's like, well, we could probably move Darth Bane around and bring him in, or Darth Revan, like he, do the same thing, or even Knights of the Old Republic as whole. Thrawn's another great example of this. That was a character that I knew from Legends, even though I never read the books. But when they announced that he was bringing him back, I thought, well, obviously this is a beloved Legends character and they're going to do something with him, right? And they brought him back and he was pretty similar, but he was in a different time era. My answer to this question is there a Legend storyline thing that I would like to see made canon? I don't really necessarily think I do or don't want to see it made canon, but where does Mara Jade fit into this? Because if she does, to me, is probably one of the biggest Legends characters that was ever created. Adored, and everybody really liked that character. But where does she fit in now? Because we have The Force Awakens, or Last Jedi, I should say. We have this new understanding of Luke, who I don't really see him having, I don't know, have met this girl and
might be why a lot of people were mad about what they did with Luke.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but I'm saying is when they're, I don't know, you think like when they're writing that story that they would say, yeah, go ahead and do that story. This will completely nix the possibility of bringing in like one of the all-time favorite Star Wars characters of all time. That was a weird way to say that, but I don't know. I think that if I don't know that I necessarily want to see that character brought into canon or not, but I think I would, simply for other fans. I think other fans want to see that character brought into canon.
Service.
And what?
Fan service.
Fan service. Yeah. I mean, but like, I never look at fan service as a bad thing.
No,
I think like all you have to do is you just have to figure out a way that it works. And once you deliver that way, then it works. So I would say maybe not exactly her storyline, which is the question, I know, but the answer for me is Mara Jade somehow finding a way into canon and not completely like ruining her character. Like she can't just be like, oh, we're just going to make this character named Mara Jade. And she doesn't have anything to do with Luke, and she's from the Knights of the Old Republic. You know what I mean? They don't want that. People don't want that. So Mara Jade is my answer.
That's now, real quick, since this is a pretty deep topic, can we go around the table and just everybody else give a quick thought as to who they think, if out of Legends, you would want? John, who would you want?
Well, I would say Jason Solo, but
it's Kylo Ren.
Right, which is a bit a different version because it was twins, right? It was Jason and
Jaina.
Jaina. So I would have said that would have been something. Prince Zizor maybe, because I liked the Shadows of the Empire game, even though I was horrible at it. So maybe Zizor. I think that's the way I would go.
He says he likes the game, but he doesn't know anything about the game past level 2.
Yeah.
Well, I liked it because I was on Hoth. And I got to fly a snowspeeder.
Yeah. Snowspeeder. Yay. I'm John, and I'm 8.
I'm 8. I was like 14, bro.
No, my real pick is Luke. to you, Luke. He definitely needs to be in the new canon. I want to see 3U Luke show up.
James, watch when you do your voices, because that gets us in trouble.
Nobody is clamoring for 3U Luke. But Bill, what's your actual pick?
My actual pick, I would love, and I'm almost positive it'll happen at some point whenever they do it, someone similar or Revan himself. It doesn't have to be the exact same plot or whatever from the original KOTOR, but I love that character, and I love those games. So I would love to see him, whether it's in a TV show, video game, hell, whatever they want to do. I'd love to see Revan again, because he's probably outside of the original Luke Han,
Kylo Ren,
Leia.
dude.
No, I mean, he kind of
I'm kidding.
No. I definitely see the inspiration there, but yeah, I'd love
That's
to.
just Kyber on Luke's neck. I'm telling you, man.
I would.
I can't
that would
wait
be
till
a
they
cool
do it.
bit of connective tissue to enter into Revan territory. So I would love to see Revan at some point.
Can we all agree that them doing anything with Knights of the Old Republic will be the best reason for doing it is so that every time they talk about a new project, people stop talking about Knights of the Old Republic?
Well, let me have an opinion.
No, not just meant in general. Like that you always hear people like, this has to be it. It's Knights of the
just
Old
announce
Republic.
that's the TV show so that we can.
Yeah.
But then we're just like, cool. When's 1313 happening?
Yeah, exactly.
That's already happened.
It's all the
this
things
podcast.
it's all the things that are no longer canon. So yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
and Sean, before we go on, Sean he is from the UK and just posted a picture of him wearing a triple solo
Awesome.
shirt, which is so cool, man.
Awesome.
So thank you, Sean.
And as the English would say, "G'day, mate."
Oh, jeez.
What?
I would have to go for my pick is actually something in John got me thinking about it. Shadows of the Empire. I got to go with Dash Rendar.
Ooh, that's a good
character,
choice.
Ooh.
He's
That's
got
a really good
deep
choice.
story, even though he's kind of.
They brought him back for Rebels.
They didn't though. They brought.
Iron
They
Squadron.
brought the ship
dude.
back.
They brought that ship back, only the model. I mean, you don't have to have that exact character by name, but I think a new character that was very maybe Dash Rendar-esque would be a good fit in the current canon situation. But it looks like they're trying to maybe move away from the original trilogy stuff, but if it was something maybe filler past Return of the Jedi, somewhere in that era, I feel like something like that character would fit a little bit better into the storyline.
Nah, he's showing up in the Solo movie, man.
Yeah,
I would be totally
Han
okay
Solo's
with
gonna
that.
That would
meet
be cool.
Dash Rendar
That'd be
for
really, really cool.
One scene.
and if one more thing, one other thing that'd be cool, some character like Kyle Katarn. Why not? You know,
Yeah.
I think he was my favorite characters growing up too. So yeah, give me some Katarn.
I thought it was pretty cool in Battlefront 2015 when they included Kyle Katarn's pistol in the game as kind of like a tribute to the video games past. It was like, hey, we know it's not canon anymore, but technically this game isn't canon, so why don't we throw it in there? All right, guys, thank you all for tweeting your questions at us. You can always tweet those to us at RBATSWNN on Twitter, and we may put your questions on the program and talk about them next week. Back to you, John.
All right, yeah, and also, if you don't want to send them on Twitter, if you don't happen to be tweeting, you could send it to our email, resistancebroadcast@gmail.com. Or if you are a Cantina folk, you can hop into our Cantina Star Wars Newsnet and throw one in there. We get some in there every once in a while when we dust off the old book. But definitely do us a favor and subscribe to our show. We are on iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. And leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes and like our episodes on SoundCloud and YouTube. Just thinking about these questions that we got from these three folks. I mean, you have Andrew Espinal, who gave us a 5-star review on iTunes. You had Adam Odell, who gave us our topic last week for our Star Wars War and a great review. And you have Sean, who bought our t-shirt. Like, you guys keep us going, so thank you so much for being a part of the Resistance. We really appreciate it. Also, head over to our store, tpublic.com/user/Resistance Broadcast. Pick up some Resistance Broadcast apparel like we were just talking about, from t-shirts to coffee mugs and more. It really is the best way to support us, so we appreciate that. Just so you know, our Kenobi character shirt, High Ground, it will be gone a week from today, so be sure to go get that before it vanishes beneath his Jedi robe. And for all of your latest Star Wars news, reviews, and information, go to our website, StarWarsNewsNet.com. It is the best Star Wars site in the galaxy. Congrats again to Doug Berger for winning the Rogue One art giveaway. Like I said, we will be in touch with you via our Twitter account to get your information and get that beautiful piece of limited licensed Lucasfilm hand numbered art out to you. Hey James, where can people find you on social media, buddy?
Oh, you can find me Twitter and Instagram at MyerChunks, MIRAHTRUNKS. And if you find me at home, I'm probably going to be thinking it's November while I catch up on all the Battlefront 2 I finally got around to watching, which, long story short, I hated it, and then I found out all the Easter eggs, and then I was like, I'll give it another shot, and then I went back and watched it the next night, and I was like, this is awesome! I don't know what it was, but I don't know. The second time won me over, and so I'm back into reading Inferno Squad. So there you go.
Awesome. It's great how those things can bring you back to other avenues in media. Bill, where are you at?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Star Wars Bill. You know what? Send me pictures of you guys drinking greenish bluish milk with the caption "gross." Thank you guys so much for listening. May the Force be with you.
And I believe, Bill, you're going to be doing some writings in the next coming weeks. Is that accurate?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I am going to be reviewing the last 3 episodes of Star Wars Rebels for Star Wars Newsnet. I'm very, very excited to do it. I'm a little bit, not nervous, but it's a lot of responsibility for a show that I love so much, and I hope that you guys will enjoy those when they come out. So keep an eye out for that.
I mean, no one better for someone who loves that show so much. It'll come through on your passion for writing for it. So we're looking forward to those, even though we're sad that Rebels is coming to a close. Pat, where can people hit you up, man?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Ganon136 and also at Ganon136 over on the Cantina forum. Love to hear from you guys. You can also find me constipated and picking curtain number 2.
That's fourth mention of constipation.
Gotta love that constipation, guys.
meeting.
But yeah, I will be catching up on some canon stuff. I am currently reading from a certain point of view. I may drop into some Battlefront 2 this week. Currently catching up on From a Certain Point of View. And if I get some time, I may be playing the final closing days of the closed beta for the new Sea of Thieves game. I don't know if you guys have checked that out. That's a little off topic, but it's a pirate adventure game on the high seas on Xbox and Windows 10.
All right, I'm John Hoey. You could find me playing Super Mario Brothers on Nintendo, the 8-bits. I'm just kidding. You could find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey and writing articles and editorials at StarWarsNewsNet.com. And as I mentioned last week, I'm heading to Hasbro's Toy Fair in New York City in a few weeks on behalf of the site and the pod to hopefully report back on some cool Star Wars stuff, hopefully some solo stuff, and I'll hit you guys up with all that info I have when I get back from that. But we have a couple episodes coming up before that. Welcome to all of our new listeners, and thank you to everyone out there in the Resistance for listening and supporting the show, and keep spreading the word to your friends and family. That's the best way for the show to grow, is word of mouth. So please keep telling a friend, tell family, bring them in. We're growing fast, and it really is thanks to you guys. We will be coming at you next week with a very special announcement, so make sure you are subscribed and tuned in, and build that anticipation, because big things are on the way right here on the Resistance broadcast.